Imagine for a moment, my friend, that you are just an ordinary high school student living a monotonous life filled with boredom. Then suddenly on a day you never expected you find yourself transported to another world. And what is even more shocking is that you become the strongest person in that realm, possessing the power of a demon king and winning the love of the most beautiful girl your eyes have ever seen. Can you imagine it? If so, then let us begin. Our story centers on Taichi, a simple young man living a calm and ordinary life in his city, accompanied by his close friend Rin. Rin harbored secret feelings of love toward him, though she had not yet revealed them. On a day no different from any other, while the two were on their way to school, a strange magical gate suddenly appeared beneath their feet. At the same time, the scene shifts to another world where a powerful mage is revealed as the one responsible for this summoning. It becomes clear that she was personally performing the ritual when a mysterious individual suddenly appeared behind her and stabbed her assistant. That intruder was about to strike the summoner herself, but the assistant rose at the final moment, saved her, and delivered a fatal blow to the attacker instead. At that point, she realized that the gate had already been activated and that the summoning had been completed. We move back to Taichi, who stood frozen in shock at the sight of the magical gate, unable to comprehend its nature, though he murmured that it resembled something out of ancient legends. Suddenly the light enveloped both him and Rin. Taichi attempted to convince Rin to flee, but she clung to him and refused to abandon him, and in the next instant both of them were torn away from their place. When Taichi and Rin opened their eyes once more, they were stunned by their surroundings, for they had truly been transported to another world. Taichi immediately hurried to check on Rin, and when he grasped her hand he felt an intense heat. Rin stood up and the two decided to search for anyone who might be able to help them in this unfamiliar land. As they walked forward, a gigantic monster suddenly appeared before them, and overwhelming fear seized them due to its terrifying appearance and massive size. Without hesitation, the beast launched an attack. At the very last second, Taichi managed to save Rin, urging her to run while he acted as a decoy. Rin refused to leave him behind, but Taichi ignored her pleas and charged straight at the creature, hoping to buy her some time. He hurled a rock at the beast, but it had absolutely no effect, and the monster retaliated with a savage strike. Suddenly a man appeared out of nowhere and slashed the monster with wind magic, but the creature survived and readied itself for another attack. Just before it could strike, a figure emerged from the grass and fired an arrow that finished the beast off. Taichi stood there in total shock, and his jaw dropped even further when a girl joined the two men. She cast fire magic and roasted the monster until it looked like a giant cooked chicken. It is revealed that the muscular man is named Lodra, the female mage is Magilla, and the archer is Requelta. Together this team had completely annihilated the threat. Taichi realized right then that he needed to get stronger to protect Rin, and that they would both have to adapt to survive in this new world. The group decided to set up camp to rest, and Requelta noticed the strange clothes Taichi and Rin were wearing. Although Taichi didn't explain where they were from, Requelta pointed out that they needed to get weapons regardless, because walking around unarmed was dangerous, especially with the recent increase in monster activity. Taichi noticed that Rin hadn't said a single word and seemed deeply troubled by something he didn't quite understand. He approached Lodra and asked if they could tag along to the nearest city. Lodra agreed immediately, true to his chivalrous nature. Later, everyone drifted off to sleep except for Rin, who sat quietly in a corner avoiding the others. Taichi went over to check on her and asked why she was so sad. At first she wouldn't say, but soon her emotions exploded. She angrily asked how he could be so reckless, putting his life in danger against that monster. She demanded to know if he realized what would happen to her if he died, declaring that she simply could not live without him. The young man listened in shock, stunned by the depth of her feelings. He stepped closer and reassured her, promising that he would never do such a thing again and that the two of them would always remain together. Rin was deeply moved, her heart trembling with joy at those words. On the following day, the group headed toward the town of Aspire. Upon their arrival, Lodra informed them that although it was a border town, it was still lively and prosperous. He guided them to the Adventurers Guild, where Taichi and Rin thanked him before parting ways to officially join the ranks of adventurers. The pair entered the guild and were greeted by a receptionist who explained the procedures and handed them a document. To their surprise, both Taichi and Rin found they could read the unfamiliar language perfectly. The receptionist then told them they needed to measure their magical power using a special crystal. Rin placed her hand on it first without issue, but the instant Taichi touched the crystal, it shattered completely. The receptionist was left in shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. She asked them to wait and hurried off to summon the guildmaster, a move that stunned everyone present since the guildmaster never appeared without a serious reason. When he arrived, he introduced himself as Gerard. He informed them that to join the guild they would need to accompany a girl named Mayura, known by the title of the Golden Swordsman. Taichi and Rin felt uneasy as Gerard refused to explain further, simply stating they would understand once they went with her. They chose to comply and followed Mayura to a strange house where a woman named Lamia opened the door. Mayura explained to Lamia that the guild's crystal couldn't withstand Taichi and Rin's power, so a precise measurement was necessary. Lamia agreed and retrieved a device that measured power numerically. The results were shocking as the numbers displayed were extraordinarily high. Lamia was stunned by their legendary level of power and informed them that she would begin training them that very day. The two stood ready to begin their training. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a spy reported to his master that two individuals had arrived from another world. The master was furious and ordered their elimination but insisted their true power level be determined first, making it clear that conflict was on the horizon. We return to Taichi, who learned from Lamia that his magical energy amounted to 120,000 while his physical power reached 40,000. As for Rin, her magical energy totaled 37,000 with a physical power of 5,000. Mayura was shocked by these figures because they were extraordinarily high. For context, an average person possesses around 10,000 in magical energy and 2,000 in power. Even the kingdom's strongest mage Lamia only had 43,000 magic and 6,000 power, while Mayura possessed 35,000 magic and 3,800 power. With these numbers, it was evident that Taichi and Rin were overwhelmingly powerful to the extent that they rivaled the strength of a demon king. Lamia explained that this was exactly why she needed to train them, as such raw power would ultimately destroy its wielder if not properly controlled. Taichi asked what would happen if he mastered this power. Lamia explained that he would become one of the strongest mages in existence, capable of destroying kingdoms single-handedly, ruling any nation he desired, possessing limitless wealth, and even marrying any woman he chose. These words filled Taichi with joy, only for Rin to lightly slap him on the face. The impact faded quickly, but her jealousy was unmistakably clear, proving that emotional conflict would play a major role in their story. The following day, everyone gathered to share a meal, and Lamia began explaining the world's magic system to Taichi and Rin. She clarified that magic is activated through forming contracts with spirits, which are divided into four main categories: wind, water, fire, and earth. Typically, a mage forms a contract with only one spirit, but in rare cases they can contract with more. Mayura, for instance, had formed contracts with 2 spirits while Lamia utilized 3. At that moment, she stunned everyone by declaring that Rin possessed the ability to use all 4 spirits, leaving Rin completely shocked by this revelation. Lamia confirmed it with absolute certainty, stating that Rin was the most powerful spirit user in history. Taichi then asked about his own abilities, and Lamia revealed that his power couldn't be measured by standard means because he was a sorcerer. She explained that he accesses the spirit's power directly rather than just borrowing it, which makes him exceptionally dangerous, though he needs to form contracts first. Lamia warned him that he now possessed enough power to destroy entire nations single-handedly and asked him what he planned to do. Taichi replied that he had no interest in ruling or destruction, he just wanted to live a quiet, normal life. Lamia agreed reluctantly, though she secretly feared that peace would not be an option for him. She decided to start their training immediately to hone their skills, so the group headed into the forest. Lamia began training Taichi while Mayura took responsibility for Rin. Taichi started by trying to concentrate all his magic into his right fist, but he struggled significantly. On the other side, Mayura taught Rin how to visualize magic. She explained that to cast a spell like fire, one must imagine the form of the element and speak its name. Rin visualized the chemical composition of fire based on science from her old world, and the spell activated immediately. Mayura was floored, as succeeding on a first attempt was supposed to be impossible. Rin wasn't finished, and in the next moment she conjured blue fire. Mayura stood frozen in disbelief, as she had never seen anyone use that spell before, realizing these two had a magnificent future. Rin went to check on Taichi and found he hadn't made any progress. She was about to offer advice when suddenly Taichi heard a strange voice in his mind, sounding like a child, instructing him to visualize his power as a mass in the center of his body. He followed the voice's guidance, and his power finally manifested in his hand. Rin was amazed by what she saw. Taichi asked if she heard the voice, but she denied it. He brushed it off, and they returned home to eat, where Rin updated Lamia on her incredible progress. Lamia instructed Taichi to stay sharp because the next day's training would be different. The young man was battling overwhelming exhaustion, but Lamia sternly warned him that if he failed to make progress, he would receive no food. He agreed immediately, and the group went to sleep. That night, Lamia was restless. Mayura asked what was wrong, and Lamia explained that Taichi and Rin were far too powerful, which would inevitably draw countless enemies. Therefore, their training had to be completed within exactly 3 weeks so they could protect themselves. The routine continued for the next 3 weeks, and by the end, Taichi had changed greatly, becoming an imposing figure. Suddenly, a giant wolf lunged at him, but in an instant, Taichi delivered a powerful blow that sent the beast crashing to the ground, finishing it off immediately. Elsewhere in the forest, Rin was also fighting monsters. Her power had increased noticeably, and she was slaying creatures with remarkable ease. Lamia and Mayura observed from a distance when suddenly Mayura noticed the strongest monster in the area, a giant horse creature. But this time things were different. Taichi and Rin had mastered their powers. Mayura started to step in to help, but Lamia stopped her, telling her to watch and let them prove themselves. Within seconds, the duo defeated the monster and even prepped it for their lunch. Everyone celebrated the successful completion of the training. Lamia then revealed that she had known all along that they came from another world due to their unusual power and the strange strange words they occasionally used. She explained that she had read about people being transported either through accidental rifts or deliberate summoning. She confirmed there was a 99% chance someone had summoned them intentionally and they needed to find out who and why. She admitted she trained them because she knew strangers to this world wouldn't survive otherwise. Taichi felt overwhelming joy realizing that if they could find the summoner he might be able to ask them to send him back to his own world. Lamia responded with a hint of tension, assuring him it was possible but advising him not to dwell on it for now. Later that night, as Taichi lay in bed, he heard that same strange voice again telling him they would meet soon. Taichi found it unsettling but chose to ignore it. The next day the pair submitted their application to the Adventurers Guild and were accepted. They began taking on daily missions and even reunited with their old friends during their first week. This routine continued for 3 weeks until a summons arrived from the guild. Gerard, the guild master, informed them of an extremely difficult mission that 2 teams had already failed. The task was to investigate a shop in a poor district to determine what the people there were up to. The reward was 5 silver coins, but if they failed, Gerard would be forced to hire expensive S-rank adventurers. He explained that he chose them because Lamia had personally vouched for their illogical levels of power. They accepted the mission and left. As they walked, Taichi recalled Lamia's warning to never use more than 30% of his power under any circumstances. He shuddered to think that using 100% would result in a massacre, especially since he was currently only using 5%. Suddenly Rin spotted her favorite fruit at a stall but was shocked to learn that 3 pieces cost 3 silver coins. The merchant explained that monsters were preventing resources from reaching the city, causing prices to skyrocket. Rin bought the fruit and they moved on, deeply concerned that people would starve if this continued. They realized their mission must be connected to these shortages and hurried to the location. Upon arriving at the shop, they entered and began their investigation by posing as customers, claiming they heard this place sold rare items and flashing their money to prove they were serious. The moment the thugs saw the money, they immediately attacked, but they made the mistake of targeting Taichi. In an instant, Taichi and Rin countered, breaking the attackers' bones. One of them confessed that a stranger had sold them the stolen goods, but they didn't know his true identity. Realizing they had no useful information, Taichi left them. Suddenly, as they walked away, they sensed someone following them. Moments later, 3 girls appeared and one recklessly attacked Taichi at tremendous speed. Taichi decided to use his power, dodging the attack and striking her with magic. The girl was slammed into a wall, unable to move even though Taichi had only used 10% of his strength. A second girl attacked, but Rin charged forward and struck her with cutting wind magic, successfully neutralizing her. With only 1 girl remaining, she threw a smoke bomb, grabbed her severely injured companion and vanished. Taichi realized they were hired assassins and decided to take the captured girl to the guild. They handed her over to Gerard, who had her imprisoned. When the girl awoke, she was shocked to hear from Gerard that Taichi had personally requested that her life be spared despite her attempt to kill him. The following day, Mayura was waiting for Taichi and Rin, drawing attention from the crowd as an elf. Taichi gently scolded her for being out of touch, but Mayura apologized, explaining she had been busy investigating reports of disappearing crops, murders, and rising monster activity. After Taichi and Rin recounted their recent events, Mayura proposed a solution. She suggested they personally transport the crops themselves so they could immediately respond to any attacks. The idea appealed to Taichi and Rin, so the heroes boarded a carriage and headed toward the farmlands, where the farmers explained the dire situation. While getting acquainted, Taichi shook hands with one of the farmers, a man named Kasim, and immediately felt something strange. The men seemed suspicious and deeply untrustworthy. After exchanging information, the farmers guided Taichi, Rin, and Mayura to the site where the attacks had been occurring repeatedly. As soon as they arrived, Rin sensed a powerful magical presence. Suddenly, a gigantic monster appeared, surrounded by several smaller beasts. Mayura charged ferociously, slicing through the smaller monsters with ease. Then it was Taichi's turn. The farmers whispered among themselves, remarking that the boy looked weak and would surely be killed. However, Taichi shocked them all. In a single instant, he delivered a devastating blow to the monster's head, smashing it apart completely, all while using only 35% of his immense power. After the battle ended, everyone went to rest and discussed their next move. Taichi pointed out that this must have been orchestrated by someone, as these monsters did not belong in farmland. Mayura agreed but suggested they set a trap for the mastermind. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a strange-looking girl was killing people and animals, absorbing their life force and vowing to eliminate all adventurers. Suddenly, she vanished, clearly demonstrating an ability to turn invisible. Back in the city, the imprisoned assassin recalled what Taichi had done and was confused as to why he had spared her life. The following day, the heroes returned to the forest to search for clues. Rin sensed a group of people with her magic and they rushed toward them, discovering 3 thieves stealing crops. The thieves appeared extremely weak, muttering that the witch had betrayed them by not showing up. The youths captured them easily and handed them over to the farmers. Kasim shook Taichi's hand to thank him, but Taichi suddenly questioned why his hands were so soft despite being a farmer. Kasim claimed he was merely a supervisor, which explained the lack of calluses. However, Rin exposed his lie, pointing out that he always spoke about the monsters as if he knew them well, even though ordinary farmers should have no such knowledge. At that moment, Kasim burst into a sinister laugh and confessed that he had orchestrated everything. He admitted to bringing in the thieves and manipulating the farmers to summon the heroes, all to lure them into a trap, declaring they were now caught in his web. Suddenly, a witch appeared out of nowhere, shocking the two youths. She stated she would take the girls, leaving the boy to Kasim, and the battle began immediately. Rin launched a fiery attack at the witch while Mayura charged with her sword. The fighting was fierce and evenly matched. Rin attempted wind magic, but it had no effect. On the other side, Taichi confronted Kasim, who summoned a gigantic ice monster. Taichi couldn't land a blow because the creature could transform into water and vapor, evading every strike. Meanwhile, Rin continued her assault to buy time for Mayura to activate her sword's special power. Mayura succeeded and charged forward, but to everyone's surprise, the witch blocked it with ease. Rin attempted another attack but nearly hit Mayura, forcing her to cancel it at the last second. The witch seized the opening and struck Mayura, sending her flying. Rin tried desperately to hold the witch at bay. Simultaneously, Taichi was struggling against the ice monster. His punches and sword strikes were useless and the monster hit him with an icy sphere. Taichi rose quickly, but Kasim handed the monster a strange red sphere identical to the witch's, causing the creature to transform into a terrifying red form. It charged at Taichi with uncontrollable rage, drawing blood and bringing him to the brink of defeat. Kasim taunted Taichi, saying he wouldn't kill him but would instead control him by taking the girls. These words enraged Taichi. Meanwhile, the narrator observed Rin and Mayura lying on the ground, yet this was not the end. The two girls rose once more and returned to the battle using their true power. It became clear that what they had used earlier had merely been a test to measure the witch's strength. They attacked together, with Mayura striking from the ground and Rin attacking from the air. The witch blocked both attacks, but Mayura appeared behind her and delivered a strike that nearly finished her. Rin followed up by attacking with an electrified sword, driving it into the witch's body. Even after all of that, the witch managed to remain standing. The two girls attacked again. Rin used wind magic, then ignited the wind with fire, causing the dust to burst into flames, a feat she achieved using scientific knowledge from her own world. Despite everything she endured, the witch continued to resist but was caught off guard when Mayura appeared behind her and struck her with a sword, tearing her apart completely. Thus, the two girls emerged victorious. We moved to Taichi, who had been brutally beaten by the monster and appeared defeated. Kasim addressed the girls, telling them to surrender if they didn't want Taichi harmed further. Suddenly, Taichi opened his eyes, overwhelmed by frustration at his inability to act. He then lost consciousness and heard a strange voice asking if he desired power. Taichi answered that he did, declaring he needed power to protect the people he loved. The voice warned him that this power would break the rules, causing him suffering akin to death, and asked if he still desired it. Taichi answered yes. The voice revealed itself as the wind spirit named Ariel. In an instant, Taichi drew in an overwhelming force, his form becoming imposing and immensely powerful. Everyone was shocked, especially Kasim, who ordered the monster to attack. The monster charged, forcing Taichi back, but the blow had no effect. Taichi rose and counterattacked, crushing the monster completely. Kasim and the witch attempted to flee, but Taichi's rage surged and he delivered a decisive blow that severed Kasim's arm, securing a crushing victory. A week later, Taichi awoke inside Lamia's house. As soon as he regained consciousness, she explained that his condition was the result of extreme exhaustion and the complete depletion of his magic, which takes a long time to recover. Lamia informed him that Mayura and Rin had brought him there, clearly worried sick. She then asked him to explain what happened in the forest. After hearing his account, Lamia identified the magic used on the monster as forbidden crimson support magic, which absorbs life energy to increase power dozens of times over. Taichi then explained that he would have died if not for the spirit that helped him, describing in detail how it appeared. Lamia was stunned by his words and told him that he was not a shaman but something else entirely. Meanwhile, Kasim and the witch stood before their master, reporting everything that had happened. The leader was shocked when he learned that Taichi had defeated the monster. He told Kasim that he had a second mission for him, which he would learn about soon. Suddenly, the leader turned toward the witch, cast a strange type of magic on her, and then left. We moved to Taichi, who had already departed from Lamia's house, and began recalling her words. She had told him that he was not a shaman but a spirit summoner. This meant that he could make spirits use magic in his stead, and that his strength depended entirely on the bond between him and the spirit. For that bond to be complete, he needed to be able to hear and see the spirit. Taichi absorbed this information in a state of astonishment. We returned to Taichi as he began searching for Rin and Mayura. While walking, he noticed two men harassing a girl and rushed in to help her. As he approached, the girl pretended to know him and exclaimed that he had finally arrived. Suddenly, one of the men recklessly attacked Taichi, but Taichi struck him, knocking him upside down onto the ground. The other men panicked and fled. The girl thanked Taichi for helping her and told him that she had met him before, revealing that she was the assassin he had defeated earlier. Taichi was shocked. She told him that her name was now Anastasia, that she had joined the Adventurers Guild and that she had started working diligently. She told him that she was heading out on a mission. Taichi offered to accompany her and she agreed. So the two of them went together. They arrived at the building associated with the mission. As soon as they entered, they began striking down the guards one by one until they reached the room where the criminals were located. Suddenly Taichi noticed a board with something written on it and froze in shock. At the same time, Mayura and Rin were together in the marketplace enjoying their time. However, something was troubling Rin. Mayura asked her whether she was still thinking about Taichi, and Rin answered affirmatively while appearing distracted, feeling an intense heat within herself. Mayura reassured her, telling her not to worry. Suddenly the two were attacked. They dodged the blows and began counterattacking. Mayura struck one of the attackers and Rin followed with her own attack. Rin was about to finish him off when a group of mages appeared atop the buildings and launched an attack toward them. Rin used an air barrier and blocked the strike. Suddenly the witch appeared and attacked, striking Mayura in the abdomen. Mayura lost consciousness and the witch seized her and disappeared. Rin tried to stop them, but she was unable to do so due to their overwhelming numbers. On the other side, Taichi was advancing deep underground. He had read in a document that there was a group of approximately 3,000 monsters, all affected by Crimson support magic, and he was currently heading to stop them. If those monsters managed to attack the city, it would be completely obliterated. Anastasia was accompanying him as well. As they moved forward, they came across a strange door. Taichi was about to touch it, but Anastasia stopped him, warning that the steam-concealed traps relying on her past experience as an assassin. Anastasia managed to open the door without triggering the trap, and the two continued on their path. At the same time, Rin continued chasing the mages who attempted to hinder her progress. In response, Rin scattered them using wind magic. Suddenly, the witch appeared before her. Rin realized that Mayura was being held inside the building and understood that the witch had revealed the location because she had no desire to fight them. The witch informed Rin that Mayura was to be offered as a sacrifice to the monsters and that Rin needed to hurry there immediately. She listened and rushed toward the location at full speed, finding Mayura being carried through the air like a sacrificial offering. Without wasting a moment, Rin arrived at the scene and began attacking the assailants with magic. She hurled the first person away, then froze the others using ice magic. After that, she caused an earthquake to break the magic embedded in the ground, severed the chains, and successfully rescued Mayura. Suddenly, the leader appeared alongside Kasim. Rin was filled with rage and was about to attack them, but the leader stated that he had come to warn them about the monsters advancing toward the city. He explained everything to them and then left the place. At the same time, one of the monsters was on the verge of killing Anastasia, but Taichi appeared at the final moment and saved her. He then struck the monster and crushed it completely. Anastasia felt deeply embarrassed, but Taichi reassured her, telling her not to worry. After Taichi defeated the monster, a strange gate appeared before them. When it opened, they were stunned to see an enormous group of monsters that had not yet emerged. As Taichi stepped inside, two girls appeared named Mello and Milu. They declared that although he was very strong, they would now destroy everything. On the other side, Rin and Mayura returned and reported everything to the guild master. A plan was immediately discussed as the situation was extremely dangerous and would require the assistance of all adventurers. The guild master remarked that he wished Taichi were there. At that moment, Lamia arrived and told them that she would help as well, making it clear that a massive battle was about to erupt. We move back to Taichi. As the two girls used a crystal to summon the monsters, which appeared in massive numbers, Taichi told Anastasia to retreat to the rear. Suddenly, the monsters charged forward, but their target was Taichi. The young men began striking back fiercely from all directions, but the horde was enormous and seemingly endless. Suddenly, the summoning crystal slipped from the girls' hands and the monsters turned on them. The noble hero did not hesitate. He rushed forward and saved Mello and Milu. At the same time, the monsters began attacking Anastasia. So Taichi, while carrying the twins, leaped toward Anastasia and saved her as well before turning to fight the monsters alone. On the other side, the guild master gathered with Lamia, Rin, and Mayura. They realized that the northern fortress had fallen and that the enemy would attack from the front using weaker monsters, while the rear forces consisted of orcs and the strongest beasts. The number of adventurers available was only 150 above rank D, meaning the numerical advantage lay with the monsters. Lamia explained that she possessed a spell capable of destroying the strongest monsters, but she could only use it once. Therefore, they needed to eliminate the monsters at the front first so the spell would not be wasted. The problem lay in how to defeat the vanguard. Suddenly, Rin spoke up, telling them not to worry as she would handle it herself. Everyone agreed to the plan and the day came to an end. On the following day, everyone headed toward the wall as Rin prepared to carry out her plan. Rin had explained the day before that she would combine fire, water, and earth magic to create a massive explosion. Although the others lacked the knowledge of the scientific laws from her original world to fully understand, they decided to trust her. Rin waited until the monsters drew closer, then in an instant the spell was unleashed. The ground exploded and shattered, pulling the monsters inward. After that, Rin attacked with water followed by fire. The fire transformed into superheated metal, which she hurled at the monsters, causing a massive explosion that sent them flying in every direction. However, this spell pushed Rin to her absolute limit, draining an enormous amount of her magic. Even so, she recovered her strength and returned to the battle. Meanwhile, the adventurers charged toward the monsters and a fierce conflict erupted. The monsters held the advantage in numbers while the humans held the advantage in individual power, and both sides exchanged relentless blows without hesitation. The enemy leaders stood at a distance alongside Kasim, observing the chaos. During this time, news reached the guildmaster that some of the monsters possessed a strange power and were affected by crimson magic, leaving him stunned. Suddenly, Taichi arrived at the battlefield, apologizing for his delay. The battle continued smoothly at first, but suddenly 3 monsters of immense power appeared. Lamia asked Mayura and Rin to buy her a few seconds so she could activate a spell to destroy the herd. The 2 girls agreed and began their attack. Lamia successfully activated the spell, striking the monsters and causing a large number of them to fall, but the 3 gigantic beasts remained completely unharmed. The 3 heroes then launched an assault on these massive enemies. Rin attacked one of them, but her strike had no effect whatsoever. She was shocked, wondering if this was the end and if she was about to die. In that moment, she felt that the only thing easing her fear was Taichi's presence. In her heart, she apologized for not being able to express her feelings honestly and thanked him for standing by her side. At the final moment, Taichi appeared and blocked the monster's strike with his bare hand. Everyone stepped back as Taichi attacked the beast, fiercely matching its power. He slammed the monster to the ground, leapt into the air, and delivered a second blow that shattered it completely. Taichi then went to Lamia and asked them to watch his back so he could defeat the remaining monsters. He introduced Mello and Milu, informing them that the twins were now allies before charging back into battle. Meanwhile, the enemy leader watched in astonishment at Taichi's power, but stated that this was only the beginning and that what was coming next would be far more dangerous. It became clear that all of this was happening under the orders of a great leader, raising questions about who this person was and what threat could be more dangerous than giant monsters. Back at the command post, a soldier reported Taichi's deeds to the guildmaster. Anastasia listened to the report and felt deep concern for him, realizing she had fallen in love with the hero. She decided to trust him just as he had trusted her when he helped her leave her life of crime. Suddenly, a strange individual appeared and whispered magical words into her ear, placing her into a hypnotic trance and causing her to leave the area. At that moment, the rest of the group was fiercely battling the monsters, delivering an outstanding performance. As for Taichi, he was confronting the gigantic beasts, striking them without hesitation, blow after blow, until he succeeded in defeating them. Suddenly, the ground shook violently and its surface cracked open. A colossal creature emerged, devouring the 2 defeated monsters. As it fully surfaced from the earth, it became clear that it was not merely a dragon but a gigantic 2-headed dragon. Taichi immediately ordered everyone to retreat. However, Rin refused to leave, insisting on staying by his side. Taichi agreed to let her remain on the condition that she would not interfere in the fight, and the girl accepted reluctantly. Taichi advanced toward the dragon and attempted to communicate with the wind spirit Ariel, yet he received no response. He decided to rely on himself and launched a powerful attack, but to his shock, the blow had no effect. The dragon retaliated with a fiery assault. Taichi managed to evade it, but the dragon followed up with a devastating strike that sent him flying. Rin tried to intervene, but the dragon blocked her. Suddenly, Anastasia arrived at the scene under the influence of hypnosis. She regained consciousness, at once unaware of why she was there. Taichi shouted for her to leave immediately, but at that instant the dragon attacked him and Anastasia took the blow in his place. Taichi tried desperately to wake her. She did regain consciousness, but the powerful strike had inflicted a deep wound. Taichi blamed himself, saying that everything had happened because of his own foolishness. Anastasia told him not to say that, explaining that she truly owed him, as he was the first person who had treated her as a human being rather than a mere tool. She thanked him sincerely. She was about to tell him that she loved him, but when she saw Rin, she realized that this feeling was surely unreciprocated. She changed her words and said that he was her dearest friend. Suddenly, her voice faded away and her hands stopped moving. Overwhelming rage surged through Taichi and his blood boiled. He screamed at the top of his lungs, calling out to Ariel, demanding her power, declaring that he could no longer endure anymore. In an instant, Taichi was transported to a strange place. Ariel appeared before him for the first time and apologized. He asked her why she had not helped him earlier. She explained that she was merely a spirit while he was a spirit summoner, and that she could only act when he commanded her, otherwise she was unable to intervene. She further clarified that the first time he had called out, he lacked the resolve necessary to form a contract, which was why she could not speak to him. Taichi understood everything and asked her to lend him her power. She agreed. Taichi returned to consciousness and asked Rin to take care of Anastasia. He then turned toward the dragon. He communicated with Ariel through telepathy and confirmed that her power was now fully available. It became clear that the two of them could end everything with a single strike. Taichi advanced toward the dragon and asked why a being of such immense power would interfere in a battle between monsters and humans. The dragon replied that if Taichi could prove his true strength, it would answer. It took to the sky and charged recklessly. Taichi countered and their attacks collided, but Taichi's strike was stronger, crushing the dragon's attack into the ground. The dragon then acknowledged Taichi's power and fulfilled its promise, explaining that its involvement in the battle had been ordered by a certain individual and that it could say no more than that. Immediately afterward, the dragon flew away and left the area. Elsewhere, the leader and another mysterious figure stood before the mastermind, reporting all the events that had occurred. The controller stated that what was coming next would be far more dangerous than anything so far, signaling that the coming events would be even more intense and brutal. After a long period had passed since the great battle, the town gradually returned to its normal state. Taichi, the hero, would occasionally go to visit Anastasia's grave. After finishing his most recent visit, he joined the rest of his group, which included Lamia, Mayura, and Rin. He sat with them and showed that he had become capable of summoning the wind spirit Ariel whenever he wished. He summoned her and everyone was impressed by her gentle and charming appearance. Suddenly they noticed a royal carriage stopping nearby, the type always used to deliver royal messages. A girl stepped down and introduced herself as Alcina, explaining that she had come on behalf of King Gilmar. She stated that the king was summoning all of them to the royal capital and the group decided to go with her. On the way, the heroes asked Alcina about the current situation in the kingdom. They learned that for several years two factions had been controlling the state. The first followed King Gilmar while the second followed his younger brother Dordiashime. Conflict between the two factions had always persisted until Gilmar ultimately ascended the throne. Even so, the struggle between the two sides continued. They also learned that King Gilmar would annually send groups of mages to other nations under the pretense of improving diplomatic relations. The mages would stay temporarily and then return, but in reality this was merely a display of the kingdom's power. The faction loyal to Dordiashime strongly opposed this practice and eventually staged a coup against the king. It became clear that this was the reason behind the summoning of the hero and his companions. At that moment they arrived at the royal capital. They stepped down to admire the beauty of the city, but suddenly an arrow shot toward Alcina's face. Taichi saved her at the very last moment. Immediately afterward, Taichi headed toward the palace. At the same time, the one responsible for the attack revealed himself as one of Dordiashime's soldiers. Taichi and his companions arrived at the royal court. As soon as they entered, all those present looked at them with contempt. Alcina introduced the figures in attendance. On the right was the head of the royal mages, Bella. On the left was the supreme commander of the royal army, Samela, and the beautiful girl seated there was Princess Charlotte. Suddenly King Gilmar entered the hall. Silence fell over everyone out of respect for the king. The king began to introduce himself, but midway through his speech, Lamia interrupted, telling him to get straight to the point. Everyone present was angered by Lamia's bold manner of addressing King Gilmar, so the king ordered everyone to leave. Once they were alone, Gilmar remarked that Lamia had not changed and was the same as ever. She replied that he hadn't changed either, calling him an old man, and asked what he wanted from them. Gilmar explained that he needed their help. Lamia agreed to assist him, but only under certain conditions. The king immediately accepted their demands, and an agreement was reached. Before Lamia left, she asked the king if he was the one who had summoned Taichi and Rin from their world. Gilmar hesitated briefly before admitting he had done it and offering an apology. Taichi was overwhelmed with anger, telling him that an apology was not enough. He demanded to know why the king had done this, asking if he understood that they had been torn from their families and nearly lost their lives just to help him. Gilmar apologized once more, and the group left the hall. They were taken to a room prepared for them to rest. While they were relaxing, Alcina entered and announced that someone wished to speak with them. It became clear she meant Princess Charlotte. As soon as the princess entered, she apologized deeply and confessed that she was actually the one who had summoned them from their world. She explained that she wanted to save her people and was forced to act because she was the only one who could perform the spell, as she governed time and space. When she performed the summoning, she included all the conditions required for a hero, but an assassin entered her chamber, causing her to lose control of the spell. For this reason, Rin was summoned alongside the intended hero. When the two asked when they could return to their own world, Charlotte tearfully explained that the summoning spell could only be performed once in a lifetime, meaning she could not send them back. However, Rin and Taichi stopped her crying, telling her that if they hadn't come to this world, they never would have met their friends. They assured her that they wished to protect their companions just as she wished to protect her kingdom. Charlotte was overjoyed by their words and thanked them sincerely. Suddenly, in the midst of their conversation, Lamia arrived and took Taichi to the combat arena. She explained that he would face the army commander, Samela, stating that she proposed this because the royal court did not trust them, so they had to prove their strength. The battle began immediately. Samela charged at the young men with tremendous force, but he blocked blocked her attack and countered with an equally powerful strike. As she launched another fierce assault, Taichi considered summoning Ariel, but he realized doing so might kill her, so he chose to rely on his own strength. He attacked at incredible speed, and their swords collided and shattered. With their blades broken, they engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Taichi managed to evade her strikes and delivered a blow that knocked Samela to the ground. At that point, Samela surrendered. After the battle ended, Samela told Taichi that she wished to marry him because he was the strongest and the knight of her dreams. She insisted on marrying him, even if it meant becoming a second wife. Everyone present was shocked by her sudden request. Taichi screamed in embarrassment, and the contest came to an end. Everyone then retired for the night. Later, while Princess Charlotte was praying, a man entered her chamber. It was revealed that his name was Lodra, one of the leaders of the royal court. Lodra pretended to be kind and gentle, and the innocent princess trusted him completely. However, it became clear that Lodra was the one plotting everything from behind the scenes.